much, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. Happy-ish Monday to you. Time for us to take a look at this morning's top headlines and a funeral slated today for Cindy Duong, one of the victims from last week's mass murder that sent shockwaves across the country. Meanwhile, more than 200 people, mostly from the Vietnamese community, attended a ceremony at the Truc Lam Monastery on Sunday. Family of the victims knelt before altars and were given food as part of a Vietnamese tradition. Mourners praying for the 8 victims of that mass murder, and in keeping with the Buddhist philosophy, they also remembered the man responsible for the shooting.
In our practice, even the one who hurt us, why they hurt? Because they have so much pain, so much problems inside. If we're able to embrace them, accept them, and that is the only way to relieve and release them.
The monastery is collecting donations, which will be used to pay for funeral services. Those are slated for tomorrow. Meanwhile, there is a push to help 2 tiny survivors from last week's massacre. The president of the Edmonton Vets Association says a trust fund is being set up for 2 babies who were spared in the murders in the Northside home. Plans also in place to make a nationwide campaign to help raise those funds, with police and victim services units assisting in the effort.
Well, I mean, obviously money cannot compensate the loss these infants have suffered, but just go towards education to, make life a little bit easier for them. I mean, money is not the all and be all, but it'll help with somewhat to try for them when they get a little bit older to rebuild their lives.
A vigil is slated to be held for the 8 victims at Churchill Square this upcoming Saturday. In southern Alberta, 2 men are dead and a driver in serious condition following a crash near Cochrane. RCMP say a truck rolled over a hill Sunday morning on Township Road 265B near Highway 40. The truck plunged more than 120 meters down to a riverbed below. The 19-year-old driver was able to climb out of the vehicle and up the hill, returning to a campsite to find help. Stars Air ambulance would airlift him to Foothills Hospital in serious condition, but he's now in stable condition. The 2 passengers riding in the cab weren't as fortunate. They died on impact. RCMP have not yet determined if alcohol or mechanical failure were factors in the crash. An Edmonton woman is heading to West Africa to help in the fight against Ebola. Mark Keegan left Sunday to assist the Red Cross. She'll be based out of Kenema, Sierra Leone, offering up psychological and emotional support. Keegan will then stop in Madrid first for some training. She expects to be in Sierra Leone come Sunday.
There's been a huge drain on resources, both medical resources as well as psychological resources, and people are struggling. There's a lot of stigma and discrimination that is going alongside with Ebola, fear, misunderstanding, and so in order to really curb the outbreak, we need to be able to build that understanding and have some behaviors change and hopefully be able to stop the epidemic. There's always a risk in life, and this is a risk that I was willing to take to try to help.
Keegan is expected to be in Sierra Leone for about a month. So far, the Ebola outbreak has claimed over 8,000 lives. Low oil prices could be a benefit for the Canadian economy. This, according to a new Royal Bank report. The authors say that the losses from resource revenue could actually be canceled out by a weaker loonie and additional spending on both sides of the border. It suggests Canadian exporters could gain significantly as a result. However, the report also underscores the major losses that could come from cuts to business investment in the energy sector. We're all talking about the cold, and homeless advocates say that they need help to meet the demand tied to this deep freeze. The Hope Mission couldn't handle all of the demand for space last night, so the old Remand Center opened its doors to handle the overflow. Now, the harsh cold is expected to taper off next week. Still, shelters are looking for a hand. They're looking for additional winter clothing. We're also asking Edmontonians to be on the lookout for anyone suffering from distress in the cold conditions. They would like you to call 211 if you spot someone. Well, what a day to take a plunge. The frigid minus 30-degree temperatures didn't keep 70 people from holding their breath for a second to brave the frigid waters as part of the 4th annual Polar Plunge, which is a fundraiser for Special Olympic athletes put on by local enforcement agencies.
It was cold. It was cold lining up, waiting, and it was cold walking back to the building. The water is actually warmer than outside.
If you met any of the Special Olympic athletes, you'd completely understand why. They're such wonderful people, and to give them the opportunity to excel in what they do and showcase their abilities, it's just worth it.
Organizers were able to raise over $15,000 this year. That's double what they made last year for the Special Olympics. A big night in sports. Team Canada looks to end a 5-year gold medal drought as they square off with Russia in the World Junior Championship finals tonight.
Comes Lazar, flips it across for Patan, loses it, but he scores! Nick Patan, power play goal!
Nick Patan leading the Canadian offensive surge yesterday with a hat trick. Nice moment here. His dad tossing the cap on the ice. Connor McDavid also picking up 3 assists as Canada easily disposes of the Slovaks 5-1 in the semi. Russians made it to the final as they knocked off the heavily favored Swedes 4-1 in the other semi.